Kyle, what are your thoughts on tipping?
Like cows?
No. Like in America, you got to tip yourself. But in like Europe, it's expected, so it's already included in your bill in a lot of places.
Oh, heck. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it's like frustrating for American like people in the service industry because Europeans will often not tip because they don't realize that they need to.
Yeah. I mean, like as I hate it, but like you got to tip in America, like because these people are working their butts off and, I mean, they should be getting paid a fair wage to begin with, but since they're not, like, you got to be a part of that.
But sometimes I feel like we should go to that European way. Like, it should just be included in our bill, or like the prices should just be higher so that waitresses get paid good.
Nah, I'd like to just risk them not getting paid at all, Maybe it'll even out, maybe it won't, I don't know.
Kyle's a criminal.
It gives you more power, it's like, maybe I can ruin someone's life right now.
Kyle has a god complex.
Welcome to Butter No Parsnips. Every week on Butter No Parsnips, your hosts Emily Moyers and Kyle Imperator take you on an adventure through the weird, wacky, wonderful, and sometimes even wicked world of one wayside word. Strange characters, delightful bits, and general joyousness abound. Join them as they test each other's etymological expertise.
Hey everybody, welcome to Butter No Parsnips. Whether you like it or not, I'm Kyle Imperator.
And unfortunately, I'm Emily Moyers.
Emily, I am now, within the past 3 minutes, very nervous for what word you have for me today.
Yeah, so here's the thing, Kyle. Before I tell you this word, I need you to brace yourself.
Okay, brace how? Mentally or physically?
All. Okay, I really can't stress this enough, Kyle. You have to brace yourself.
Okay, all right. I'm going to hold on to my seat. I'm going to hold on to my hats. I'm going to hold on to my horses.
Well, it won't be enough because the word I have for you today is Cumshaw.
No! No!
Cumshaw, Cumshaw.
I hate you, you know that? I hate you. Okay. All right, Emily, listen, we're all adults here,
Yeah,
it's
just a word.
We're all high-minded adults.
Scholars.
We're scholars, Oh boy. Okay.
Kyle, I dare you to guess language of origin.
I have a guess for language of origin.
Yeah?
Yeah. Is it Middle English or Old English?
Nope. Couldn't be farther away geographically.
Gulp. Couldn't be farther away geographically.
Yeah.
Okay, if I bore a hole through the earth from England.
Yeah, this is a good way to get it.
Is it actually?
Yeah.
Okay, is it Chilean?
What? Kyle, what's the opposite side of the earth where we are? Oh, I guess Middle English isn't where we are.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah. I don't know how much Middle English was spoken in
the
Americas.
If you burrow through the earth from where you're sitting right now.
From where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, is this from somewhere in Asia?
It is.
Is it Russian?
No. Kyle, what is everyone do we say? Like drill a hole through the earth and you come up in.
Is this a Chinese word, Emily?
It is.
Okay. This helps me so little. We've never done any Chinese words on this episode.
Yeah. I thought now's the time.
I've got nothing to go on. Is this a noun?
It is a noun, yes.
Oh, wait. Rickshaw is like a vehicle. Does that have any relation to Cumshaw?
It does not.
Oh, God. Nothing? None at all?
Nope.
Emily, I got nothing on this. Please tell me. Enlighten me.
Do you want a hint, though?
Oh, yeah. Please.
The hint I have for you is thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, but no thanks, Emily.
Take one wild guess.
A Cumshaw is a gift.
Kyle, you got it.
Are you kidding me?
Literally, you got it.
I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, so Cumshaw is a noun meaning a gift or gratuity or a bribe or payoff.
Okay.
And it comes from, well, it's borrowed from a variety of Chinese called Hokkien. And I want to start by talking about the word variety in this context, because we've never really dived into the Chinese languages, and they're interesting.
Yeah, I know so little about it, so I'm hoping to be enlightened.
What you probably know, Kyle, is that there is not just one Chinese system of language. In addition to the country's official language, capital S Standard Chinese, there are in fact hundreds of local language varieties. And these varieties are called such because they are not quite dialects, but they are also not quite individual languages.
Interesting. I need to hear more about this because I am unfamiliar. I know Mandarin, and that's about it.
You do well. Let's talk in general terms, Kyle. What do you think makes something a dialect as opposed to a language?
I would say all the words are the same, but maybe some differences in pronunciation and spelling.
That is sometimes the case. There can sometimes be different words, such as like in British English and American English, it is mostly a difference in pronunciation, but there are some different words like sidewalk and pavement, or truck and lorry, things like that.
Do we consider British English and American English dialects of English?
Yes. But the thing about British and American English is that they are mutually intelligible, meaning speakers of two dialects of the same language can generally understand each other without trying that hard.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So in the case of the Chinese varieties, this quality of mutual intelligibility does vary a lot. Some of them are like pretty close together and some of them are like wildly far apart. Interestingly, sometimes the word dialect is used for some of these varieties. The Beijing dialect of Mandarin is one, but they do generally tend towards not mutually intelligible. There are sometimes where like even, two villages like next to each other will have languages that can't be mutually understood.
That is wild.
Isn't that wild? There's so many languages or varieties in China.
How is that even possible in modern day?
That is like a whole other thing. I don't know for how much we're going to be able to dive into it. I mean, Standard Chinese is like China's attempt to solidify that. And it is like gradually, a lot of these individual varieties are dying out, but there are still a lot of people that want to hold on to their, native variety of Chinese.
Sure, of course.
So it's like a whole thing. A tougher question here, Kyle. What makes something its own language as opposed to a dialect?
Whether or not it has an option on Google Translate.
Well, that can't be the case, Kyle. There's so many languages not on there. This was a bit of a trick question, Kyle, because the answer is really nothing solid.
Sure.
There are plenty of cases where people don't even agree on what is and is not a language. Sicilian Italian is a great example.
Yeah.
A lot of people consider that a dialect. A lot of people say it's different enough that it's its own language.
It's pretty different.
It is pretty different. And in this case as well, people do often refer to the varieties of Chinese as languages. People will say that Mandarin is its own language and Cantonese is its own language, and so on and so forth. There's also sometimes socio-political factors. It's possible that these varieties of Chinese are not considered official languages because the Chinese government wants to promote Standard Chinese and this idea of like a unified language, but I'm sure there are a lot of factors involved.
That's really interesting, especially for these languages to have existed for so long, I assume.
Yeah,
so
long.
And to not fall by the wayside. It's kind of impressive.
It is. I mean, a lot of them are like dying languages, especially the really niche ones, but they are persisting. And there are, again, like hundreds of them, and they're often classified into large groups. For example, Mandarin is like the largest group. It includes the Beijing dialect, which was a major basis for Standard Chinese. Yue is another group, which includes a group of Cantonese varieties. And another of those broad groups is Min, within which there are the Southern Min or Minnan varieties, and within those is Hokkien, which is the language that we're talking about today.
Does this come from like a specific area in China?
It does, Kyle. It originated in the southeastern part of the Fujian province, which is on the Chinese coast, basically directly across from Taiwan. It is sometimes called Amoy, or the Amoy dialect or vernacular, after an old name for one of the major port cities in this area, which is now called Xiamen. Used to be called Amoy, so this is sometimes called the Amoy dialect. And historically, this was a trade language, like a lingua franca between, like, throughout the coasts of Southeast Asia. So it spread from China to Taiwan, to Singapore, Malaysia, the Philippines, Indonesia, and eventually, like, the wider Chinese diaspora as well. There are speakers today in Hong Kong, Cambodia, Thailand, Vietnam, further abroad.
Is it like a pidgin language?
It, I think, originally was a pidgin, yes. For people who are not familiar, do you want to briefly explain what a pidgin is?
Boy, Emily, that is a rough one.
You brought it up, Kyle.
That is a rough one. We covered the word pidgin. We covered pidgin languages in our Hi Muckamuck episode.
We did. A pidgin is sort of a language that develops on the fly when people who don't have a common language need to communicate for trade or things like that. So I think Hokkien was sort of a pidgin language, but I think it developed independently first.
Sure.
But there are actually varieties of Hokkien. Hokkien is itself a group of varieties. So in Malaysia, there's Penang Hokkien, there's Philippine Hokkien. Taiwanese, one of the official languages of Taiwan, is actually a variety of Hokkien.
Oh, wow. That
Yeah.
makes sense because they're so close to each other.
They're right there. Yeah. But I swear to you, Kyle, I am going to bring all of this back around to Cumshaw, unfortunately.
I mean, yeah. Or fortunately, depending on who's listening.
Yeah. Well, I am going to talk about this word, I swear, because it is in this seafaring trading context that this word came to English. All right, you ready, Kyle?
Yeah, I've got so many thoughts now.
Well, you've got to add some more because I need you to picture this, all right?
Okay, yeah.
It's the early 19th century.
Okay.
Chinese ports previously closed to Britain are beginning to open.
Mm-hmm.
You yourself are a British sailor. Maybe you're a Navy man. Maybe you're with the East India Company. I don't know. You want to give us a little character work here, Kyle?
Hello, Governor. I'm sailing with the East India Company, and I've come to grab some of your finest green teas.
Oh, okay. Do you got like people back home you need to support, or?
Yes, my 4 fudgelings. Marmy, Klesbo, Tiff Taff, and Jen.
Does this guy have a name?
My name is Admiral Finkbottom.
Oh, he's an admiral.
He's
But
an
he's
admiral,
just
yeah.
with the company.
Oh, yeah, well, it's like Cap'n Crunch. It's just a title.
It's a marketing scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Admiral, your ship pulls into port in Xiamen, then known as Amoy. You're trading for green tea and whatever else. And you hear this word from the locals, Cumshaw. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Chinese tones are very difficult.
Yeah.
Cumshaw is the Hokkien word for thank you. Literally translated, it means something like grateful thanks or to feel gratitude.
Oh.
And according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, it's possible that British Navy sailors in Xiamen heard this word Cumshaw from beggars hanging around the port and assumed that it was a word for a handout, that they were like asking for money.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense.
It does make a lot of sense. It's believable. Merriam-Webster does qualify this story with words like, probably and apparently. So,
Yeah.
I'm not really sure.
Sometimes when it's too believable, it's definitely made up,
It's true, because it's easy to like construct a narrative that makes sense. So I couldn't find any like outside information to confirm or deny this. So I don't know whether that was how Cumshaw came to be Cumshaw.
Sure.
Regardless, what I do know is that Cumshaw came to mean a gratuity paid or gift given to the captain of a ship upon delivery of goods from their ship.
Okay.
I've come bringing fudge to you. Where is my Cumshaw?
Right?
Yeah, or it's like, I've sent my shipment on this ship to be delivered, and I'm going to give the captain a little extra money for getting this where it needs to go.
For doing God's work. Wait, so when you put it on the ship to be shipped out, that's when you give the...
Well, it says the captain gets it upon delivery of goods. And I also, the source I was looking at, it looks like in different contexts, this gift was sometimes given like from the merchant or the broker, or sometimes by the purchaser. Like when they get their stuff, they pay the captain. So it varies.
It's like tipping a delivery boy.
Basically, it's a gratuity.
Do you think the next time I order Domino's, if I handed the driver $5 and said, "Here is your Cumshaw, good sir"?
I think that's the last time you would see that delivery driver.
And it might be the first time you see iron bars, Kyle.
Although you're absolutely right when you say $5, because that is the amount that all of the quotes I looked at said.
Always $5? That's not even Chinese money.
No, but it is. You know what it is, Kyle?
What?
The Spanish dollar, I learned, is just another term for a piece of eight. Like Pirates of the Caribbean, pieces of eight. They're Spanish dollars is another word for this.
Now I'm trying to think of what the etymology of dollar is.
Funnily enough, dollar originates from early Flemish or Low German and was later applied to those Spanish dollars.
Wild.
Language is wild. It's very true.
Language is wild.
So this custom of giving Cumshaws was particularly associated with the city then known as Canton, now known as Guangzhou. The earliest written appearance of the word that I could find was from 1813 in a book called Oriental Commerce by William Milburn, Esquire of the Honorable East India Company's service. And I just want to say that William Milburn is a horrible name.
He's my best friend on this ship. We play cribbage every night.
Aww. So this book, Milburn's book, is all about the history of and procedures of trading in Chinese ports. And there is a quote, "The following are the usual rates of pilotage paid by the company's ships frequenting the port being Canton. And pilotage is money you pay to pilots or to people driving your ship.
Gotcha.
And one of those rates is, quote, Cumshaw, or present to the pilot, $5.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Is that this is the standard amount.
Interesting. Wait, are there other types of gifts listed there?
There were here's the rate for if your pilot is going from this city to this city, if they've got this amount of goods on the ship.
Do they have names like Cumshaw does?
No, just descriptions. Cumshaw is the only one that has a special name.
That's so fun.
It is. And by the 1830s, both this word and this custom were well established among both British and American traders in China, as evidenced by this quote I have from American educator Howard Malcolm's 1839 book, Travels in Southeastern Asia. In his book, he includes a glossary of terms which a Westerner traveling in Southeast Asia might need, one of which is, quote, Cumshaw, a present. At Canton, custom has made Cumshaws a matter of right. As in, all the captains are expecting to get a little something for what they do.
Yeah. I'm confused geographically why Canton is coming up. Where's Canton again in relation to...
Canton is also on the coast. It's sort of in an inlet, and it was a major trade city. It is not technically in the same province that Hokkien is, but it's very nearby.
I thought Canton was the town that Joe Biden was born in.
No, but it is where Cantonese comes from.
No way!
Canton. Cantonese.
That makes so much sense.
Yes.
Is Canton, is that a traditional Chinese name, or is that a name that was, given by Englishmen?
I suspect it was given by Englishmen because it's not the name of the city that is known today.
Right.
It's not still called Canton.
Doesn't sound very Chinese.
It does not. So I suspect that was a name that Europeans made.
Really, really, really interesting. I mean, normal for history, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's sort of, I mean, it evidences how there was like trade going on all through like the South China Sea and this whole
Yeah.
area. So this word originates in Xiamen in the Hokkien variety, but traveled all through the region. Cumshaws came to be particularly associated with the transport of opium into China. Kyle, do you know anything about the history of opium in China?
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're unlocking a memory for me. Okay, not a memory.
Well, when Kyle was addicted to opium.
I used to have to go on those East India trading ships to get my fix. Yeah, I remember that for a while, the English, or the Westerners, I should say, Europeans and Americans perhaps.
Mostly British and American.
Were taking advantage of the Chinese by trading opium, I guess, in China. But like it led to a lot of people becoming addicted.
Yes.
Am I on the right track?
You are 100% correct. Yeah.
Okay,
so I don't want to get too deep into this because there's a lot of history here and this episode's going to get too long. But the Cliff Notes version is basically what you said. Britain was buying a lot of goods from China and they wanted to be selling something to China because like initially like they could only pay in silver because that was the only thing they had that China wanted. So they essentially created an opium addiction epidemic so that they could sell a lot of opium to China. And China subsequently created a prohibition on opium. And so they had to get opium into China through subtler means. And then the Americans jumped on it. They, I think, got opium into China through India. And there was like a point where they actually had like an easier time subverting the prohibition laws and were able to like undercut the East India Company. It's like a whole thing.
I feel like you could replace opium in that whole description you just said with McDonald's and it would make just as much sense.
That's the one we're still doing.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it led to some wars and stuff. So I can only assume we've got bad times ahead. But it also gave rise to the opium Cumshaw, which interestingly I found spelled with a K instead of a C a lot. But that was similarly money you paid to the captain who was transporting your goods. But I think in this case specifically, it was like a payoff for a captain who was smuggling opium for you.
Wow. It's interesting that if it was smuggling that people became so, now I gotta go drop off my opium Cumshaw, you know?
Well, you know, if the guy's gonna sneak something through customs for you, you want to make sure he's like well motivated.
Yeah. I hope it was more than $5.
No, I think it was still just $5.
So funny.
But that money did specifically go to the captain of the ship. I read about a Pennsylvania court case in 1843, Wilcox v. Phillips. Pause for Wilcox jokes. In this case, the owner of a ship, Mr. Wilcox, sued his ship's captain, Captain Phillips. No, not that one. Wilcox believed that the opium Cumshaws paid to Phillips should rightfully belong to the owner himself. Oh, and this, by the way, is how I know that it was still $5, because in the court notes, they were talking about like, oh, what is this $5 Cumshaw?
When was this court case?
1843.
Wow, okay.
But the court ruled in favor of Phillips, saying that while the owner was entitled to all the earnings of the ship and all the money exchanged for the opium itself and so on, the Cumshaw was a separate payment, and it was compensation to the captain for going beyond his ordinary duties to smuggle illicit goods.
It's like, you know, going to an Applebee's and tipping the waitress because she did such
she did a good
job,
thing.
and then the owner, then the owner just takes it all.
Yeah. Everybody tip your waitress if she gives you opium.
Yeah.
Just to quickly round us out and bring Cumshaw to the modern era, Cumshaw is sometimes used as a slang term in the U.S. Navy for sort of off-the-books bartering to get things that you want or need without having to go through the official Navy procurement procedures.
Interesting.
So it's like, hey, I got this thing, you got that thing. What if we made something happen here? And that would be a Cumshaw.
Is it still used today?
I think so.
We don't still give Cumshaws to ship captains, do we?
To our opium dealers? No.
Yeah.
No, they're out on their own now.
Actually, would you believe that they get a percentage of all of the shipments? It's a salary-based field now.
They get $10 now.
There's a minimum wage.
Yeah, the minimum wage finally went up from $5. Kyle, that's what I have for you on Cumshaw.
Emily, a great little nugget of history you got there.
Ah, well, thank you, Kyle. Kyle, can you use this word in a sentence?
I think I can, although I wish I had saved all of the modern day references for this part. Let's see.
Well, I was thinking you could, if you wanted to keep it period, you could do this sentence in character as Admiral Finkelbottom.
Finkelbottom. Yes. Okay. Say something to me as if you were one of my fudgelings.
Papa, what did you get from China, Papa?
Oh, yes, for my fudgelings. Tiff taff for you. I got a dress made of the finest Chinese silk.
Oh.
And to do that, I had to ship 80 tods worth of opium to a nice gentleman who gave me a Cumshaw for my hard work. I love you, Tiff Taff.
Beautiful, Kyle. I think your fudgeling is already asleep by the time you got to the end of that sentence. But it was very good.
That's what I was aiming for. I've got a long day ahead of me tomorrow.
It's like less and less British and more JFK, you know?
Yeah. Kyle, would you like to play a game?
I would love to play a game, Emily.
The game that I have for you is called Little Gifts, which is a YouTube video that no one should watch.
It's a YouTube video that you should watch right now. Little Gifts. Look up Little Gifts, my
Starring
name.
Kyle Imperator. Yeah, but you gotta watch Midnight Snack first. Except you shouldn't watch either, in my opinion. But Kyle, Cumshaw is certainly not the only gift of a word that English got from the varieties of Chinese. And I mean, obviously there are loads that you would expect, the words that we borrow directly related to cooking and religion and those kinds of things. But there are also plenty of words and phrases that we have fully integrated into English that you might not expect came from Chinese.
Interesting.
So I'm going to describe a few and you're going to guess them.
I love it. Hit me.
This first one is an easy one, but it has to be said. This beverage, whose name is borrowed directly from Hokkien, was among China's biggest exports in history.
Is it tea?
It is.
No way!
That is a Hokkien word.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never once considered the etymology of tea. It feels like it's something that just kind of descended upon us from the heavens, you know? And just like, this is what it's
like
called.
A primal word. It was in us.
It's objectively called this, you know?
Next, this greeting is a calque, or directly translated turn of phrase, borrowed from the Mandarin, Haoju Bujian.
It's not, no, it couldn't possibly be. Emily, is it how you doing?
No. Jesus.
I was gonna say.
No, ready?
Joey got it from Chinese.
No. I'll say it. I'll say it in Mandarin again, but I'll say it in the way that you would say it in English.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, Kyle! How'd you bujian? It's great to see you.
How did you bujian?
It doesn't sound like it, Kyle.
Oh, it doesn't? Oh, okay.
No, but it does kind of have the same rhythm. Oh, it's what you would say if you haven't seen somebody in a while.
Long time no see.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah, so that is a calque. That is a thing in language where you just take a direct turn of phrase from a different language, whether it makes sense in your language or not.
Yeah.
And that is an example. Long time no see has really no grammatical flow in English, but it's because we ripped it straight from Mandarin.
Yeah.
All right, next one, Kyle. This calque of the Chinese characters Xi Niao was popularized in English when American media used it to describe prisoners of war returning from Korea.
We called them...
Perhaps something that the government or that sensationalist media might think had happened to prisoners of war when they were in Korea that would change their way of thinking.
I don't know. Shell-shocked?
No, it is brainwashed.
Oh. We thought that the prisoners of war were brainwashed?
Yes. No, truly. Because they came back like shell-shocked and like war is horrible and we shouldn't do this. And everybody was like, well, that's crazy talk. They must have gotten to your heads over there. It's like, what? No.
Dear God. Wow. Wait, so brainwashed?
Yeah, she now is literally like brainwash.
Wow. That makes a lot of sense. These are just making more and more sense, Emily.
They are. I have another one that makes a lot of sense. This Chinese pidgin English phrase was derived from a Cantonese word meaning quickly. And I'll give you a hint. It's the same word twice.
Pip pip.
No. I'll give you another hint. This phrase also gave us the name of a certain utensil or a pair of utensils.
Oh, chop chop.
Yep, and?
Chopsticks.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Those are both from Chinese pidgin English, derived from the Cantonese chuk chuk.
What does chuk chuk mean?
Quickly.
Wow, chop chop.
All right, Kyle, I have one last one.
Yes.
This sauce was eventually taken to the American colonies by English settlers, but originated in Amoy as a concoction of pickled fish and spices.
So like fish sauce, oyster sauce feels too on the nose. Oh, what's that jar of sauce that I use literally every time I cook?
Kyle, I'm going to give you a hint.
Yeah.
It's not a sauce that you should have to remember the name of.
It's something that I wouldn't own?
No, it's something that you wouldn't have to struggle to remember.
Oh, is it just like soy sauce? No, that's soybeans. Duck sauce?
Nope.
Yum yum?
Nope. More basic.
Teriyaki?
So the reason I mentioned that it was taken to the American colonies is that it is today, by us at least, more associated with American food.
Ketchup?
Yes.
What? Oh
yes.
My gosh.
Ketchup originated in Amoy, now Xiamen.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. That's
Isn't that
insane,
crazy?
Emily. That is crazy. Yeah. And it was made with fish?
It was pickled fish.
Honestly, let's go back to fish.
No, I'm good. Kyle,
wow.
That's Cumshaw.
Emily, wow, great word. You're really branching us out geographically. And, you know, it's an area of history that we haven't touched on quite so much. So I feel...
there's a lot there, you know? There was stuff, there was so much I had to cut out because there's just so much.
I'm sure.
But we'll get to it.
We'll get to it. But Emily, for today, for shipping this knowledge our way, I'd like to give you a Cumshaw, Emily.
Aw, thank you.
And if those of you out there want to give either of us a Cumshaw, remember that you can find Butter No Parsnips on social media, on Facebook and Instagram at Butter No Parsnips Podcast, and on TikTok at Butter No Parsnips. And if you like today's episode, consider giving us a 5-star rating or review wherever you heard us.
And if you really like today's episode, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/butternoparsnips. Donating $5 or more earns you a shout out either on social media or here on the podcast.
Thanks so much to all of you. You help us make what we make.
And with that, I've been Emily Moyers.
And I've been Kyle Imperator, and this has been Butter No Parsnips.
Butter No Parsnips is produced by Seth Glicksman, Kyle Imperator, and myself, Emily Moyers. The main and accompanying themes were composed by Kyle Imperator.